The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus proposed a parable to the crowds. The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a man who sowed good seed in his field. While everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds all through the wheat and then went off. When the crop grew and bore fruit, the weeds appeared as well. The slaves of the householder came to him and said, "Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where have the weeds come from?" He answered, "An enemy has done this." His slave said to him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" He replied, "No. If you pull up the weeds, you might uproot the wheat along with them. Let them grow together until harvest. Then at harvest time, I will say to the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles for burning, but gather the wheat into my barns." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Please be seated.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat kahit na ang lakas ng ulan. Marami pa rin yung nakapunta rito sa simbahan at nakikisa sa banal na misa. And for those who are at home, maraming salamat for waking up early and then joining us in this Mass. Dear friends, the Gospel that we read today is again a continuation on the previous readings. It's a reading about harvest, about weeds, about the good fruit, no? Magandang minhi, no? Tutuloy lang natin yung reflection na yun. Agricultural pa rin naman mostly ang Pilipinas, kaya if you go around, chances are nakakakita ka ng mga palayan, no? I also grew up in a farmland, lolo being a farmer, and then every time that mag-aanihan na, no, dinadala kami sa farm sapagkat teaching moment yun, no? And then I could not forget one of the times that he would call me aside, and then sabi niya, "Tingnan mo, piliin mo nga dyan kung ano yung palay na may laman at yung palay na walang laman." I was not able to answer, no, during the time, but the lesson he told me is that pagka yung palay ay nakatungo, may laman yan. Pagka palaging nakatingala, no, wala yang laman. No? That was one of my lessons about arrogance, about yabang, about being too loud. Usually yung may laman, no, walang gaanong imik, walang gaanong ingay, no, goes through the day. Malaman no, keeps on reflecting. Pero kapag walang laman, yung mga putak ng putak, ingay ng ingay, and typically arrogant, no? I cannot forget that, and even now, every time that I would see a rice field, that's a reminder to me. And in the gospel that we read today, it's a question about evil, no? Bakit nagtathrive yung weeds? Ang sabi nga nung servant, did we not put in the best seed? Did you not sow the best seed? Ang pinakamagandang binhi. No? If you were here also, and if you were listening to the homily of Father Eugene yesterday, farmers usually keep the best seed to be sown in the next planting season. And yet, may mga weeds pa rin along the way. Kaya nga, the servants, no, were wondering, did we not sow the best seed? Where did these weeds come from? Do you want to pull us out and remove the weeds? So the question of evil among us, suffering and pain, is an old issue, an old problem. In fact, in many of my classes, lagi na lang yan nabibring out, no? Ang question ng why is it that bad things happen to good people? Why is there evil in the world? And one of the authors would say that the question of contemporary man is that bad things happen to good people, is that the great tragedy of life is not just that bad things happen, but that bad things happen to good people exactly as frequently as to bad people. Kasi kapag naririnig natin na merong nangyayaring masama sa mga questionable character, sa mga questionable na mga tao, sa mga shady yung character, madalas sa back of our mind, aminin man natin, nababanggit natin yung mga salitang buti nga. No? But when bad things happen to good people, that's when we ask the question, bakit? No? Why, Lord? No? So, when, for example, cancer, we simply read in the newspaper or watch in TV, we just take them as news, balita. But when it becomes closer to home, when it affects already our loved ones o kaya tayo, that's when we ask, why is this happening to me? Naging mabuting tao naman ako. Why is this happening to me? Sumunod naman ako sa mga pinag-uutos mo. Bakit si ganito? Meron tayong mga ganyang tawag nito, dialogue sa Panginoon. And it redounds to the question of why is it that bad things happen to good people? Yung tanong na yan ay isa sa mga napakahirap sagutin sa buhay. At kaya nga, sometimes, no, we would listen to people's experiences of how they deal with this. And since wala tayong gaanong sagot sa ganoong mga katanungan that will satisfy us, may sagot naman po, but an answer that would satisfy us, sometimes hindi natin matanggap yung mga sagot na yon. And every now and then, we would encounter people going through difficult moments and yet holding on to faith. We would see people, know people who are going through even worse than what we're going through, and yet go through it with a smile. That is also a teaching moment. Kung kayo po ay nanonood pa ng American Got Talent, no? This was something very recent, I think a month or 2 months ago or 3 months ago, no? There was one who auditioned, no, in American Got Talent. No? The singer, the amateur singer was named Nightbird. No? And then after singing a very mesmerizing personal composition, no, Butot Balat, no? And then usually merong interview doon, and then the judges ask her the question, kamusta ka naman, what brought you here? No? And how are you? And then there it was revealed that she was given only 2% chance of surviving yung cancer na pinagdadaanan niya. And then of course, no, the judges, no, were amazed at her disposition when singing the song. It was very contagious. It was something that is very personal, heartfelt, and aside from that, may talento talaga, magaling talaga. No? And then when she was already being interviewed, sabi niya 2% is not zero. No? 2% is not zero, 2% is still 2%, and I'm still alive, and I can still sing the song. And I'm holding on to that 2%. And to many of us, na may mga pinagdadaanan, that can be a very, very strong inspiration. Where to get our inspiration? 2% zero. And in fact, in that exchange, in that interview, maganda yung pagkakakanta niya, may talent siya, but her other talent, that is, it reveals her reflection, her closeness with the Lord on how to deal with the question of evil that she was going through, the question of suffering and pain. Sabi ko, yun yung talento niya. No? Kung magkakaroon ng championship kaagad, no? Champion na siya sa larangan ng buhay. Kasi sabi niya, isa pa sa mga sinabi niya doon is that sometimes some people can see God because they won't look low enough. And it's true. Look lower. When we look low, that we also encounter God there in the lowest moment sa buhay natin. But one of the takeaways, one of the things that I would always remember in that interview is that, ang sabi niya, we cannot choose. You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you choose to be happy. We cannot wait until life isn't hard anymore before we choose to be happy. And this one coming from a person given only 2% chance of survival. Dear friends, the question of evil, the question of suffering, the question of pain will always be there. Every time that we go through it, it becomes personal. We would ask the question, why is it that bad things happen to good people? God has a way of leveling the field. When it comes to people na sa akala natin ay namamayagpag, don't worry. At the end of the gospel, the Lord gave a very clear instruction. When you harvest, at harvest time, remove the weeds, burn them, and put the good grain in my barn. Put the good grain in my barn. We look forward to being harvested, and we look forward to being placed in the barn of the Lord.